Hey, it's Sarah, and welcome to the ledge, my ledge. I am out. This is me out on the ledge of trusting the process in my life. I don't know what's happening, and I don't know what comes next, and I'm loving it. So thanks for joining me. Thank you also for watching the video with the title, Welcome to the Birth of an Idea. If you haven't done that yet, like you haven't missed an opportunity, just pause this video. Go check it out. The link to that is below this video. And the rest of this will be here when you get back. I encourage you to do that. I believe in my heart that for those of you who have already done that, your journey with this content is going to be rewarded by your investment in doing that. So thanks. When I made that video, I want to maybe I'll just let you know that video, along with the invitation video that's embedded in there, came to me in an intuition, came to me in the context of writing in a journal, and both of those sort of came out of journal entries that functioned like an outline or like a script to those. And I sat down to try to, call in that process again today, and I started writing, and I got to a point in the writing where it was like, those were your training wheels for this moment. And so right now I'm coming to you live from the ledge of trusting the process in my life. Even though I'm recording this video for future use, the me that you're seeing now is out on the ledge. I hope that you'll honor that. So thanks for watching that video. I created that video because the intuition that sort of underlies all of these ideas that are coming through for me is a belief that I just need to get out of the way. And when I say I, just the Sarah ego, I wonder what people will think. When I make this content and put it on the internet, I got to get her out of the way because she blocks the best parts of me, the most honest parts of me, the most authentic, the shiniest parts of me. And inviting her out of the way has been a process. It continues to be a process that's unfolding right now. But in an attempt to orient you to this moment in time in my life out on the ledge, it's like 14 days out from the day that the idea, inspiration, and effort was put into making the invitation video and publishing it on the Facebook group that I referenced. That Facebook group is a private group comprised of about 240 at this moment other souls on the journey. Some of them have met, as I believe I met most of them, in real life at QHHT retreat or reunion. Others are just on their own spiritual journey and have found themselves resonant with the QHHT community and have found their way into this space. So it's about 240 other souls. And so about 14 days out from that moving through me and me taking action on it. And about 12 days out from the decision to film the background video that ultimately became Welcome to the Birth of an Idea. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with that video, but it just felt like the next step. As I said in the video, one person had taken me up on the offer that I was extending in that invitation video. And I came to learn that person, her name is Tara, and you'll meet her soon. So Tara expressed interest via Facebook Messenger, an interest in having a conversation. So we made plans to do that. And so the next step for me was making that Welcome to the Birth of an Idea video. And on the morning of the conversation that you're about to see between Tara and myself, I sent her the video. And so she received that link and watched the video, as you'll hear later. And I included then in the email where I sent the link some more information about me, just the truth of my journey as I understand it from my present state of ignorance. In that email, I introduced myself as somebody who had held titles of psychotherapist, licensed psychotherapist, dually licensed psychotherapist. I introduced her to the reality of my being a person with multiple sclerosis at some point. That was my identity. These are roles, these are identities that I've lived into and that have in a lot of ways brought out parts of myself that might not have otherwise been realized, and I'm grateful to them for that. Maybe that was their purpose in my life, but that's not who I am. And I'm on the journey to knowing that that statement is true every day of my life. I sent that video to Tara. We had this conversation that you're going to witness now. We made the decision following the recording, or I co-created the decision with Tara to release this video. She gave me permission to use it in whatever way I saw fit, and I took some time to contemplate what I wanted to do with that. There was a window of time where I got an opportunity to face off with a former version of me that was very practiced in the process of having an inspiration, doing something with it, creating something, and wanting to give the gift of that effort to anybody who would receive it. I wanted to give it away immediately. And I used to rarely, when I was living out that version of myself, I used to rarely pause to allow myself to benefit from it, to allow myself to contemplate and ask myself, like, how does this experience that I'm having emotionally, that I'm so excited to share with everybody else, how is this an opportunity for me to go within and ask myself some important questions, like, why do I feel this way? Why am I so excited to give it away? What do I believe others will get from it? I never asked myself those questions, but I also never asked myself, like, what I could get from it as well. How does this apply to my life? And I'm making amends to myself in this project, in these conversations, by doing just that, by doing that work. And so I want to offer you in this project an unfiltered access to truth as it relates to my life, and invite you to consider, like, as you are watching it, how does it make you feel? Because one of the things that you heard me say in Welcome to the Birth of an Idea video was that my intention is that this content be a light on the path of others, that it be a beacon of truth and authenticity, and I still believe that. That is still my goal in making this project. But one of the gifts that came out of taking the couple of days of time between having this conversation that you're going to see now with Tara and this moment, filming this video, is that I gave myself the gift of opportunity that time provides, that contemplation provides, that play and getting out and living life provides. And so I have lived some life over the last couple of days. I'm coming back to this moment with an awareness that it's a tricky thing to be a light, right? Because really in the darkness, you never know what you'll see when you shine a light into darkness. And when I say be a light, I am imagining some of the things that I will, just by me being me, by me speaking my truth, by others who will join me on this journey in these conversations, are just speaking their truth, that light will have a consequence in your life. That consequence could reveal a sense of feeling seen and understood, and a sense of hope, maybe, and propel you forward on your own journey. For others of you, the light might cast awareness onto stuck areas in your life, onto areas that require, or that you would be wise to consider exploring, that require unpacking, require healing, require attention. And speaking on attention, it's important maybe that I pause for a second and just acknowledge that your decision to watch that Birth of an Idea video, and then your subsequent decision to click on the link for this video, suggests something about you. And at a minimum, I believe it suggests that this content, for whatever reason, it might not be clear to you at this moment, it has your attention. And I want to honor that by giving you space to feel what that feels like, and to get curious about why it has your attention. It will be different for each of you as you watch it, and it will change over time. Just expect that. The reason it has your attention will change over time. And there will be some of you watching to this point in the video having tried to get this far many times before. I will have lost some of you by this point in the conversation. And we haven't even really gotten to the content yet, but this is just me being me. shining my little light. And doing so, shining my little light, might cause you the experience of discomfort. I guarantee that I will tell you the truth of my life. And what I can tell you about the truth of my life before you know it is it is filled with paradox. It has been a human existence full of contradictions and missed opportunities and growth and love and magic. And I want to invite you in, but not for the reasons maybe that society or maybe your stories that you tell yourself about. Why the fuck would anybody get on the internet and talk the truth about their life? Like, what is that about? What's wrong with them? And I guarantee this content will make you question that. And I hope that you receive that as an opportunity to go within, as an opportunity to get curious about why it is that you feel that way. And to take the adventure that is a party of one, invitation of one, an adventure and a journey that only you can take. But I do believe if I stay true to my heart and this vision, if I follow through on what I believe I'm being called to do, that's the adventure that will be made available to you on this ride. And I love you for taking it. I'm super proud of you. Keep going. I love you. So let's get into it. Let me frame it up a little bit. So you're going to meet in a few minutes Tara. I say a few minutes because I may talk for a few more minutes here, but I do encourage you to take a moment and go down in the notes below this video and click on the link for an episode from another podcast channel on YouTube called A Soul Inspired. And when I sent my invitation to Tara on the morning of our conversation, she returned that moment of vulnerability on my part with the link to this video that I'm inviting you to go check out. What I speak to in the video in our conversation is the experience of me watching it on the day that we were going to have our conversation. So take the moment to pause this video, check out that video of Tara sharing her story or some of her stories on this episode of A Soul Inspired. And welcome back if you've gone and done that. So on the day of our conversation, I have this exchange with Tara. She shares this little grouping of stories that you've now been able to experience and appreciate. So the rest is our conversation. I made the decision not to edit it in any way because this is a new idea making its way into the world, and it's a new way of being. What I hope that you'll see here will make you uncomfortable in the best ways. And one of the ways it's definitely going to make you uncomfortable is that there's a lot of societal programming that would suggest that we aren't supposed to do this. We aren't supposed to talk about these things. And if you identify yourself in a particular way, these other things cannot also be true about you. So all of that stuff has the potential to get activated in you. And I love that. And I send you so much love for that journey. But it's your journey. I can't help you on that one. All I can do is shine my light. And this is me doing that. So thanks for watching. Thanks for inviting this experience. I believe from where I'm at on my path today, on my journey today, that greater levels of freedom and greater levels of peace are on the other side of those feelings that you feel as you watch this content. So much love to you. So let's get into it. This is me and Tara meeting each other really for the first time and having an authentic, heart-centered, raw conversation. What you may notice as you make your way through this content, this being the first example of it, is this is what we're intended to do. We're intended to witness each other's stories, to hold them with reverence and understanding and appreciation, really, for what gifts may come by learning them, by learning about each other and appreciating our individual journeys, our soul journeys, and moving out of fear and scarcity and lack into an experience of abundance, into an experience of love, of an open heart, where the invitation to connect isn't squandered by fear. And that's the magic that you're about to see between Tara and I in this video. So thanks for watching. I hope you love it. I hope it touches you somewhere that it needs to be touched. with my decision to publish this onto the internet, I release it to the world with like a trust and a knowing that it will make it to the hearts of the people that need to see it, that it will challenge the hearts and souls that need to be challenged with the most love and the most respect available, because that's who I am today. And with this project, I hope to introduce you to who I am. So that's all for now. Enjoy.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. How are you? Oh, there you are.
Hi.
Your black dog looks like my dog's.
This is gonna get so weird. I just know it.
Wait, I don't know, can you
Yeah.
see his face?
Yeah.
Gosh. And I have a second one on the couch over there. Oh my God, sorry. That just like,
They're all joining too.
oh my God, they're so cute. That's that's crazy.
That feels like immediate evidence of what I already knew was going to happen. And this feels to me like such a unique moment that I got to just like pause for it. Because you sending that episode was perfect. I felt like you met me in the moment of vulnerability of sharing, and uh, it's likely that you and I could probably talk for a long time. I just got a hunch.
I'm, I'm sure we could. Absolutely.
But thank you for giving me the gift of knowing your journey.
Oh,
To say sameness really doesn't describe anything, but I'm happy to go into whatever sort of makes its way forward today
sure.
uh, about the journey. But yeah, hi, it's nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. Yes, I felt when you sent out that video. Oh, sorry, I have ice in my mouth now. Yeah, when you sent out that video, I just felt like I had felt drawn to you prior, like from the minimal interactions that we've had on Facebook. Like
Yeah.
I definitely felt like a familiarity, maybe, if that makes sense. And yeah, and then when you sent out that video, I was just like, I have to talk to her. I just felt like I had to talk to you.
I love it.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So thank you for putting it out and for putting yourself out there. And I think I watched the other video that you sent
Yeah.
today, and I just found it to be so like, yeah, that's all. Like, I love having authentic conversations.
Yeah.
I find them to be so impactful. Even when I go back and listen for myself,
Hmm.
it's just, and I think because sometimes like I've been on a few podcasts, and, sometimes they're so like professional that yeah, exactly. And then I go on other ones and it's just like we're just kind of shooting the shit, and it's like, wow, that was awesome. And you can feel the difference. So I'm really excited to whatever,
Yeah.
whatever happens.
Totally. I am on the edge of whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, and I've never allowed myself that experience. So this feels new and exciting, and I'm grateful to be sharing it with you.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Just to like reflect back to you, like it's one thing to say in a conversation, like a first meeting of somebody, like I enjoy authentic conversations, but watching that episode, I know you're telling the truth. And I'm grateful for that. I don't know what your frame of reference is with regard to how you would classify that conversation, but I felt it was authentic, or at least you were bringing your full self to it. And the call on my life right now is to do that and nothing less. And so I have no idea what that's going to look like, but I do know that I've had these profound experiences over the last 2 years that I know that I'm not alone in having. And thanks to the QHHT journey, I'm also like oriented to like the global phenomena of awakening in a way that makes it clear to me that like I just need to get the fuck out of the way and stop allowing my ego to keep me small in my life and keep me silent.
Mm.
and that comes from a place like that has a story that you can probably relate to this in your own ways, but the QHHT experience, like the first session that I did, my journey into the QHHT realm followed a similar path in like the sequencing, but totally different circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I too had maybe I'll just kind of follow your track. So I too had like a cracking open experience where similar to how when you came out of anesthesia from your surgery,
Mm-hmm.
the experience of living was just different. And my cracking open moment happened on a hospital bed at the VA hospital in Las Vegas.
Oh, wow.
I had checked myself into the hospital. So I mentioned in the email that a former me had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And because I had 10 years of active duty naval service that was honorable, I submitted my medical bills to the VA when that was happening for me, along with an article that they published. I laugh and I reference this only as, I don't know, paying homage to the version of me that lived in the stories that this was necessary.
Mm.
But I submitted my medical records to the VA for consideration for disability. I got it first time round, 90%. And at that moment in time, while that in 3D world, I understood to be a blessing. And I still receive the blessings of those choices. But I tell a different story now. But I don't want to get on a tangent about that. But so I had a relatively uneventful span of about 4 years with that diagnosis. I was just living
Mm.
life and digging myself into deeper holes um, and ignoring and avoiding my own work in favor of like trying to fix everybody else.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and in this hospital bed, I checked myself into the hospital. The reason I checked myself in is I wasn't able to reliably communicate. My brain communicating with my body just wasn't working in the ways that it always had. And so I had, myriad sensory differences. I couldn't walk reliably. I had to like kind of hold the walls
Mm.
uh, at times. And this was like the most troubling symptom for me because it was the most, I don't know, I've always considered myself like an articulate person.
Mm.
And when it started to interrupt my ability to speak, like I had that get aphasia, like so I knew what I wanted to say, but it couldn't make it come out of my mouth.
Oh, yeah.
And then my body was just not communicating well. I couldn't hold my bladder. Sometimes things, other like uncomfortable and unpopular things were happening with my body. And so here I'm sitting in this hospital bed. And I had at that point been living in stories that supported me believing I had that diagnosis and that I needed medical treatment for it. I've been living under that spell for like 8 years. And at that point, the process of going into the hospital, which was usually the length of stay was about 7 days, um, because of how insanely I was living my life outside of those windows of time when I checked myself into the hospital, I had come to really appreciate them as like a time to relax. It was the only time I gave myself time to stop.
Right.
And when I was in the hospital, I enjoyed when I'm honest, totally honest with myself, I enjoyed the attention of having my needs met and having somebody come in every 4 hours and give me opiates. I always made sure that I reported what I needed to get that because I felt entitled to it, whether I had pain or not. That's just the truth. Um, but sitting there in that bed, my mom drove in from an hour and a half out of town to be at my bedside, and I had just been terrible to her. I was working through some shit, and
Mm-hmm.
I told her fuck you and get out of my room, and that devastated her. And so I had to kind of I had a moment where I had soiled myself, and the nurse came in, and they were just not compassionate at all. And so over the span of a couple of hours, this experience that I had held up as being a solution and as being a place of respite and a place where I was getting what I needed started to become dismantled in front of my eyes. And I was having experiences with the interactions with the healthcare providers wherein like the post-COVID fatigue of the entire system was apparent to me.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't getting um, seen. It felt to me. My needs weren't being listened to. And so all of these things that I had built up around this experience were being taken away. And I can see now in retrospect that that's what needed to happen because I was
Hmm.
having a moment of reckoning. But in the moment, I felt very like ignored and very victimy. I was having like emotional outbursts. Some of the staff actually, like after they ignored me for a couple of hours, stopped answering my call bell.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it had to get to that place. It had to get to that place.
Sure.
I now see, but it was devastating. But so I put up with that until a point on one day at 3 in the morning. I asked the staff. I said, "Can I get a leaving against a medical advice form? I want to check myself out." And so at 3 in the morning, I didn't even let my partner know. I checked myself out. I like hobbled my way down to the ambulance bay of this hospital. I called a ride share. Rideshare picked me up, and I had him stop at a 7-Eleven on the way home to get cigarettes because I was still, you know, not awake, but knowing I couldn't stay there, that I was getting more sick there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went home and got some rest. And when I woke up, I was like, well, shit, what do I do? I couldn't drive my car, which meant I couldn't go see my clients. I was a practicing psychotherapist at the time. Um, Life said no more. Sit. Done. And so about 7 days into my sitting there, like sort of moping, victimy, watching television nonstop, um, like a still small voice came through and just told me, like, you're gonna figure this thing out. You don't have to worry about anything. And this peace fell over me. I don't know how to describe it other than that. But then what I noticed after that moment was I just had different eyes. I was seeing life through different eyes, and I was having new experiences that feel like now in retrospect, I can understand it. I was in a state of super consciousness. I was definitely like um, more aware than I'd ever been.
Mm.
And I was having experiences like going out for the first time with a walker. And I knew intuitively and spiritually that my job in that moment was to pay attention to the experience that I was having, to feel that experience, to feel people's projections onto me, and to understand what it's like to be a person in the world who's conveying illness in that way. And it was powerful. And more of those experiences where it was like I had the awareness that I needed to pay attention to what was happening. I didn't know what to
Mm.
do with it, but I just needed to pay attention. I didn't like hit record in my brain. So at that time in my life, I had been for a long time. Well, I don't want to get into the details actually. I want to keep to the story. So I had that moment too, similar, it sounds like, in ways to what you had coming out of surgery. And I didn't even make it to my QHHT session, which occurred about a year and a half or so after this breaking open experience,
Interesting.
before what I can liken to basically on what I've read. I have no concept, but I've been reading a lot. I am also like a constant seeker, and this got my attention and it hasn't let go of it since. So I had some things to attend to initially, getting myself packed up and moved out of a house, selling a house. So that was first orders of business. And during that process, spiritually, I now look back and see, I had an awareness at the time, but I didn't know how to contextualize it. Spiritually, I could see that I was being given the gift of opportunity and like preparing that house for sale,
Mm-hmm.
to connect with my body, to reconnect with my competencies. I had completely disconnected during the COVID years. I became sick. I was succumbed in fear and victimhood, and all the while offering my heart and my energy and my services to clients. So the rate at which I was burning myself up from the inside was just like I added gas to that over the years of COVID. And so my body was in disrepair. And so I was being given this opportunity in this sort of like slow kindle of healing to reconnect with my body, to reconnect with parts of myself that I had allowed to become stifled or I'd forgotten about. So I got the
Mm-hmm.
household, and similar to you, it was a transformative and important experience to have a move in the middle of this
Mm.
healing, because I literally, quite literally got this gift of being able to leave that life that I had created, this prison of unwellness, and move into a new space. And so I got into a new space. I'm in that space now. And going into that space, I had set intentions myself, and then my partner and I talked about, like, we're just going to fill it with things that make us smile, and we're fill it with joy. We were both coming out of our own journeys of addiction and blah blah blah. So we did that, and about 2 weeks into being in this new space, she and I were watching, like, So You Think You Can Dance on television. And I don't know if you remember, he's now the late former judge of that competition, but
Oh,
Twitch. Do you remember him? He was a
I've
judge.
never really, I mean, I know the show, but I've never really watched it.
Gotcha. Are you familiar with him as being just a public figure
I
or
don't,
a celebrity? Anyway, long
no.
story short, it's not about him as much as like what energy he was representing. He was
Mm,
he was giving these contestants. He had been a former contestant and now is a judge, and so he was speaking from this lived experience, and he was all heart in this feedback he was giving to these contestants. And something in that resonated to the degree that you describe your healing crisis after your QHHC session, that felt like, or during your QHHC session, that felt like you were convulsing, but like you weren't physically moving,
mm-hmm, yeah.
but you had energy surging through your body.
Oh, yeah.
Something about that resonant moment for me clicked me into like a past timeline of all the moments that I too convey that energy in my interactions with others, like that heart energy. But
Mm-hmm.
also kind of like gave me this like brief glimpse into the future. It was like just a fucking portal. And what happened in my body was, it was if as if I describe it, the column of energy that maybe one can learn moves through us at all times and creates
Mm-hmm.
this portal feel. Like I could feel that life force energy, as if the bands that had been constricting it for some time released to the extent that now flow was restored.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it caused me to sort of like rock back physically, and what was flowing out of my ears, tears, and the eyes was tears. And at that point on the journey, my partner had come to understand that when I look at her and I just kind of shrug my shoulders, she knows like I'm okay. But it's just like a lot of emotion running through me.
Mm-hmm.
Just all these tears were coming. And that was another breaking open moment. Life got real weird after that. A lot of like extrasensory experiences opening up, a lot of creative flow, but it was chaotic, and I hadn't done the work yet to understand what was happening, but I was aware of it. So then the next morning after that experience, I started to have what a doctor, had I seen a doctor for my symptoms, would have called like a flu. I was having intense flu symptoms. Really, most pronounced was like a really high fever. I carried a
Mm.
high fever for 102 for 3 days in a row.
Wow.
But I was gifted during that experience of high fever with a really visual, mystical experience. And during that time, like you talked about yours being very much like emotion coming through,
Mm-hmm.
of release emotionally. Mine was physical and body stuff. I was taken through this visual journey over those 3 days where I could see every cell in my body dumping in like a reverse sequence order all of the toxins that I've exposed
Wow.
to. I could perceive at times that my body was releasing in reverse order medications that I've taken for long periods of time. I could visually have a sense of that. And then once the
Wow.
cells were done, I could have this sense of like all the extracellular spaces also doing this purge. And I just stayed in bed and I stayed quiet and I listened to my intuition to guide me to what to eat. And I did a little searching on the internet. That helped me to come also to the idea that this was a healing crisis, that I had experienced such a shift
Mm.
um, biologically that my body was catching up
Mm-hmm.
this new frequency. And so that spanned a period of 3 days. The high fever subsided after those 3 days, and I emerged from that a new fucking person. Before that, I was a daily smoker, half pack a day. I was using illicit stimulants, illicit opioids that I would procure illicit through illegal means.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it just wasn't living right.
Mm-hmm. I know. I know the feeling.
And I emerged from this 3 day experience with zero evidence of that in the form of craving in my body. I had no second thoughts about any of it. And not that that ever was something that I was consumed with to a great extent. I never like put myself through the punishment of trying to quit. I just gave myself full permission to do whatever. I now see in retrospect, I never resisted. But that was totally relieved after that moment. So
Wow.
as healing journeys do, like it kept unfolding. And the initial unfolding for several months took the form of me really diving into, I think I put this in the video, or I know I put this in the video, Joe Dispenza's work. He
Mm.
had breadcrumbing his way into my life since like 2000 when they released What the Bleep Do We Know? I was like the only person that I knew that like paid to go watch that shit in the movie theater. Like, but I didn't know what to do with the information. I just knew it made sense to my brain. And so now he was full force in my life, teaching me what I needed to know to get well, and to get control of my brain again, to get control of my life again, to learn about my energy system, and to learn about healing in a way that was like not only tangible, but like put it into practice, and it fucking worked. And I had been
Mm-hmm.
off of like 16 years of being a psychotherapist, which beautiful work. I'm grateful for that. And I know I was witness to profound and beautiful healing. And I'm grateful to every soul who trusted me with their story in that process. But this was different. It just was fucking different. And so I get through all this work. I was planning on getting another set of scans for my nervous system, like a whole set of MRIs from my brain all the way down to my spinal, into my spinal cord. And I set a frame of time that I was going to do that. And I told myself, when I get that scan, if it shows evidence that what I'm doing is working, then that's the last time I'm going to go back to the doctor with regard to this story.
Right.
So I did all the things, and I show up and I do my MRIs. And in the MRI tube, I'm focused, I'm meditating, I'm like repeating mantras. No evidence of active disease, no evidence of active disease. And so then, kind of like a, I don't know, obsessed person. I was really interested in getting the reports afterward.
Sure. I would be.
I made it a point every morning to wake up, and I don't have a vehicle right now. I sold my car, and it's been 2 years. But I rode my bike to the imaging center every day when they opened until I got the reports. And there was something wrong with the way one of them was done, and so I was persistent about that. But all four studies read no evidence of active disease,
Nice.
and so that's all I needed.
That's
And
awesome.
a couple months later, after that event, I had planned to like film a testimonial. I wanted to send a testimonial, and Dr. Joe Dispenza has like a big body of work that is testimonials, and I wanted to add to that. I felt like I had something to add to it. And so I set up with a friend to go to his house, and he's got like a home studio. I was going to get all fancy with it. But like I look back in retrospect, and I could see that my ego was leading the bus and not my heart.
Mm-hmm.
There, but I needed to still learn some lessons about ego. And so I flopped that day. I choked. I couldn't get it out. And I was super hard on myself afterward.
And who shows up in my social media feed after that was Dolores. She's, bringing the grandma energy big time and just got my attention. But she starts talking about this 3 waves of volunteers, and my soul just lit up.
Mm.
And yeah, I downloaded the book as soon as I could and I read it, and my life started making sense. Everything in my life started making sense. And within a week of reading that book, I booked a session with a local practitioner, level 2, here in Nevada. And I had my first session. And I knew going into it, similar to you, like this is the thing I'm going to do for my life. And so I laughed because in preparation for our call, I pulled out, my practitioner gave me back my list of questions.
Oh, wow.
Talk about verbose, like this is 10 questions, but a lot of words,
That's awesome that you still have that.
Yeah, I hadn't looked at it since until today, but it's remarkable. So we did a session. The session results in me regressing to scenes earlier in this life. Vivid scenes where I'm describing in stupid detail my childhood home, and then it moved me into these scenes that I now understand how magical it was to be given the gift or the opportunity to revisit those scenes, because I needed to see them in order to be the person who's having this conversation with you right now. The early childhood experiences with my dad primarily that shut that, trained me that it wasn't safe to be the fullness of myself, the fullness of my heart and of my silliness and creativity. Not that I suppressed that through my whole life, but I suppressed it in really important ways that wouldn't have allowed me to have this conversation. It wouldn't have allowed me to make any videos or put them on the internet. It's just remarkable. And so, these scenes took me back to the exact moments that contributed to that block, or that collection of blocks in my life. And so my practitioner recommended I watch, or I listened to the recording, of course, but she specifically gave me a number, which I'm grateful for. She said, do it 21 times. And she didn't give me any other instructions besides that. I chose to hear that and apply that by listening to it 21 days in a row, right after the session.
Oh, wow.
And so it was 47 minutes in length. It wasn't super long. So I just picked a walk that I typically do in my neighborhood, and I listened to it. And at the end of 21 days, I knew exactly the wounds that it was bringing to my attention, or at least therapist me knew the wounds it was bringing to my attention. So I read a book on father wound and did some EFT tapping, like I do, full on. Once I have an idea of what's going to fix it, I just go for it. And I healed a lot with that, but that wasn't the journey. The journey was much more of an unfolding, similar to yours. It sounds like mine less painful. Yours was physically painful in ways that I'm sure you'll never forget. And my journey, my unfolding also, I wouldn't call it painful, but merciful, in that it unfolded at a rate that didn't overwhelm the progress that I had made, and feeling my feelings, allowing myself to feel my feelings, and storying, committing to the process of storying these experiences differently than I ever had before. Just opening up that possibility that what's happening is in fact a mystical and beautiful, magical experience, and totally for me, curated for me. And why don't you just sit back and enjoy the journey? But it was painful. So many opportunities to heal shit that I had locked away in boxes for a long time. And so then by November, so only 2 months after I had my session, I got to meet Julia and Tracy. A lot of the practitioners, they came into town for a little convention.
Oh, cool.
And I volunteered to be at that convention. And I thought, my sign will be if I interact with them at this convention, I'll know whether this is what I'm supposed to be doing, because it is so far outside of where I thought my life would go or what I might be doing. But it had this resonance that I couldn't deny.
Mm-hmm.
And so my interactions with them were lovely, as they always are. And I just knew. And so by December, I was signed up for level 1, and I feel like the rest is history. And now I'm making videos for the internet and talking to about my life. So
Wait, so December of what year?
this last December.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so last December, and I finished up in early January, did my first session on January 15th. Got 7 sessions under my belt relatively quickly. People in my life, one person found me on the directory, and that was a unique experience. But these other 6, one was a fellow practitioner, but the rest were people known to me, and all magical experiences. But at 7, like, it was the solstice sale, and so I was like, let me just do it. I want to do level 2.
Yeah.
So I did level 2 in April. And I mean, that just changes everything, in addition to the practice. But I don't know, it's very well done.
Yeah.
I'm really appreciating this learning process. It's been helpful for me.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in it. So that was in April. I went to the retreat in May, and today's September. What we day in September? But yeah, that's that.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I feel like, you heard in the video, or at least I hope I conveyed in the video, that I don't have like a set idea about what this is going to be. That's not what I'm supposed to be doing right now. I'm not supposed to be trying to figure it out.
Right.
I'm supposed to just stay 100% in my heart, and don't constrain anything that wants to make its way out of my heart and into the world. That's the call. And I think, even this morning, what makes me feel aligned in this vision is like I'm getting this now more constant or consistent, like, drip feed of ideas and information. So I can see a vision even more clear than it was when I made the invitation video,
Cool.
which is super cool. And what came through for me today is a remembering that every time that I've allowed myself to be vulnerable, and mostly in the context of sharing gratitude with somebody who's touched my life, like, took a risk to just say what was on my heart, it's always been met with something beautiful. And I have no reason to doubt that that wouldn't continue if I decide to do that in a more intentional way around these, like, totally new experiences that I'm having right now. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my story. Thanks for listening to it.
Ah, thanks for sharing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And definitely a lot of parallels, I want to say, that is very interesting to have.
So interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful that you made that video available to me before we met. It really helped me. So
Yeah, thank you. Like I said, I'm just so happy to be able to share. That was actually the first time. So I was really afraid to share about my first QHHT experience because it was so intense.
yeah.
So I've been practicing QHHT for coming up on 3 years. And that was the first time that I ever really, like, oh, here you go. This is what happened. This is me, like,
Yeah.
so that was even a big step, but I really felt like it was time, because I didn't want to be, it's not that I was like, it's not like I lied about it. I just didn't share all that much,
But sins of omission.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I told people mine was intense, but I never really explained how intense, it was. Yeah. And if I'm being really honest, like, there's a part of me that's still afraid of it. Like, my husband said to me the other day, he goes, don't listen to it again.
Oh no.
And I was like,
I can
I'll
appreciate
listen.
he's likely had his journey alongside you, and I too try to hold space for my partner and her experience of being just in the fucking proximity of this journey. I am a
Right.
different person than I was 2 years ago, and I'm so grateful. And it is a confirmation. I don't know if this is true for you in your relationship. It is a confirmation of like the bond, or
Oh
like
yeah.
the rightness of that connection, because it's never wavered, and it's only deepened and become more expanded,
Mm-hmm.
not in a way that I feel like I'm imposing at all, but like that she's showing up to in her own ways, which is like so fucking rad, you know.
Mm-hmm. It feels like truly unconditional is how for us. Like that's how we kind of describe it to each other is like I've never been in a relationship of that type where someone is so supportive of you being you
Yeah.
today, last year, the year before, and that's a totally different person. And I even say, I'm like, sometimes I feel bipolar or crazy or like I'm flying high one day and on the floor the next, and it's kind of like I can't really imagine. He's so even. He's so even, like on the outside anyway. He's so even that yeah, I'm in awe sometimes that
He lots of
how
times, yeah. It's funny that you use the language that you just used in that description, because my partner and I had a similar exchange last night where I, through tears, was just like, no one has ever given me what you give me. And that is just total love and acceptance, like an unconditional way. Like I can be my full self.
yes.
And that just hasn't happened before. And that's really beautiful.
Yeah. I feel very appreciative of him and the relationship that we have and have had. And I'm going to say I wouldn't have even been able to fully explore myself and who I am without that support that he has given me in all the different ways, emotionally, physically, financially, it's just like all the ways that he has just kind of shown up for me. And I only hope that I continue to show up for him because, you know,
Yeah, it's beautiful.
yeah, it is.
Uh, the part that feels like a stay tuned or like to be continued thread in my relationship with her that I learned from your episode is also part of your journey is the channeling. Uh,
Oh,
I've been calling that in and like low key claiming it, but like slightly afraid to claim it on a regular basis because
okay.
I feel like I know that I'll know when I'm ready, and I feel like I've been getting gifts or opportunities to connect differently in that realm, just in the days leading up to this conversation, which is super cool.
Ooh, cool.
I just learned in your videos. I was watching some of your library today, like that your guides call themselves the crazies. Is that
So,
sense?
yeah, so that was so I've actually done, I don't even know if I've posted about it fully. So I've done a lot with my channeling in the more recent weeks, even. So yeah, I used to when I was doing automatic writing,
Mhm.
I was connecting with I would call them like a team, and they called themselves the crazies.
Got it.
Definitely. And even when they told me, I was like, the crazies, and they're like,
That's
yes,
the name. Did I get that right?
right. And they're like, it doesn't matter what people think. And I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
So that was
Right.
very cool. And that actually, so to kind of backtrack a little bit, my first QHHT session, I asked, what are my gifts or
Mm.
what are my spiritual gifts or whatever I said. And they said something like all this. It was like all this. And I had no idea what they were talking about. And then they said something about like if she could just open the door and step back and let it come through. And I was like, what does that mean? I had no idea. And my practitioner, you know, she keeps going and she's like, well, how can she best utilize it? And they said streaming consciousness with people.
Mm.
And again, I was like, I'm not really sure in the moment, like I didn't know what it meant. And it was all about communication. And I was like, I don't know, I don't understand. And so like through the years, it's been unfolding and developing. And so I started with automatic writing with the crazies, but last year or so, I had been feeling nudged to do channeling for a while, and I just didn't really believe that I could do it. You know, it was like, oh, I'm not like that, you know. I'm not that kind of person.
Yeah.
And so I was looking at this book that my mom had given me from like the 80s. The book is from the 80s and it's called Opening to Channel.
Mm.
And so I read it and I was like, okay, I could do that, you know, and I started to practice it and I practiced with one of my friends and we connected to guides and had all kinds of weird things come through. And it was like verbal channeling.
Yeah.
And my friends just kept like pushing me. They're not in a negative way, you know, just like nudging. And they're like, one of them is an intuitive, and she's like, I see you channeling in front of like huge crowds of people and like healing and doing all these things. And another friend, whatever. And then one day I was like, what am I waiting for?
Mm.
And so I just literally put this post out on Facebook, and I had not channeled even for myself in a long time because I was like, I don't have questions on a daily basis, you know. So, and I just like I had a Zoom with my friend and I hung up and I went downstairs and I was like, I don't know what I'm waiting for anymore. And I literally put out a thing on Facebook and I was like, hey people, I'm gonna start practicing. If you wanna, you know, do it, like please like touch base, comment, whatever. And I think I had about 20 people. And it was amazing. It was like it was like QHHT, like the doors just opened and the space just started to be filled. And you're like, you know, it's divine, you know, you're like, you know, that there's no other way that this could be happening. And I asked for strangers because I didn't want to know, you know, the person.
Mm.
And I had people email me questions and I didn't even read the emails. I printed them out because I didn't want any conscious
Mhm.
mind involvement. And that's how I started. And I started recording myself and just sending it to them and asking them for feedback. And I can't even tell you, I was crying like every day reading what these people were writing back to me, how accurate everything was, how weird like psychic things were coming, you know, just all these crazy things. And it's just, and then I just like that was it. I just continued to push and dive in even further. And then I started doing them on Zoom. And then the other day I was doing it at a festival
Nice.
and I started connecting with people's past loved ones. And I was like, what? Like it's just so I will encourage you to, if you feel like that is something, but I do believe that you will. Well, I'm not sure. There's a part of me that's like, you'll know when the time is right. And then there's a part of me that's like, well, when you want to do it, you'll do it. You know what?
I think it's a both and. Yeah, I think it's both and. Yeah, when that moment in time when those two things meet, I think it's gonna happen. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Cause it is. And I think also that learning QHHT and doing all of that was a huge part of being open to
Yeah.
channeling and having, I guess I want to say the skill or the knowing or the wherewithal to trust the
Yeah.
first thing that comes into your mind. You know what I mean? Like
That's the skill. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
all those things that we talk about in QHHT and what those tips that we tell people,
Yeah.
and then pulling them back on yourself and going with the first thing that you think of or feel or see or whatever, you know, that I would say I definitely well, I don't know. I've been told that I'm a natural channel, like it's in my human design and one other thing. But I still feel like without QHHT, I never would have had the confidence
Mhm.
to trust the way that I do and the way that I've been able to just like take the dive,
It sounds
without
like
that background.
it was a key and a lock, you know?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
it
Beautiful.
was.
Beautiful. Yeah, I just started I've really tried to commit on this journey to not pigeonholing myself into a particular belief about what's happening, but from what I've exposed myself to, some language that feels like it matches what I'm being called to do right now, and that has sort of like resulted in a flow of consciousness through me onto a page where I'm not choosing the words. I'm literally just like scribing.
Mm-hmm.
So many people call that automatic writing. For me, it's just, I finally decided to get out of the way. And I've created some ceremony around the process, which gives me, I don't know, a sense of containment that I feel safe with right now. And so that's been happening. But that's not the beginning of the story. What I'm coming to understand about this experience of this flow through me is that during all my years of counseling, or like showing up in the world in such a way that people, random strangers on the fucking sidewalk, would within a few sentences or exchanges would be telling me their deepest, darkest stuff. And those moments where I would meet their vulnerability, whether it's a stranger on the street or a client in the context of me being the therapist and them being the client, the moments that their vulnerability was met with my willingness to just say the thing and get my ego out of the way and just show up with my full heart. I've always, like from the start, I would comment to my supervisors when I first became a therapist, way back in the Navy. I called it the hum, that I would experience this hum. Vibrationally, I now kind of can put words on that, but I called it a hum at the time. But I would always motion like this when I would speak about it, and because that's the way it came through me. Um, and what would come in those moments where I was experiencing the hum would land in such a way that it was profound for myself and the other in ways that like you can't you can't think that shit up. You can't learn it in a fucking book.
Right.
It was love, like concentrated love with nothing in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about love in the context of being a therapist with a client in mixed circles, you're going to get pushback. You're going to get questions about that. But I know that what I experienced, not just in these moments of hum,
Mm-hmm.
but in my exchanges with people over time, that is love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, Pure love. And when it's working right, when both people are showing up to the process. And what QHH, I was just journaling or probably automatic writing because it was coming from somewhere else. I was just speaking to that in a journal entry the other day. And the gifts that QHHT gives me is I don't have to be ashamed or worried about that level of loving exchange with the other person in a QHHT session. I'm not questioning myself as I'm like hurting anybody or like breaking some fucking rule, or,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, imposing. Like I'm just open with my heart, showing up with my full heart, and I'm witnessing. And the other is like not I mean, initially maybe they're invited, but they're compelled to share because I'm holding that space, and they're allowing themselves to be in it, and that's fucking beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
HHC allows me to experience that. And when the experience is over, I don't have to invest myself in the outcome like I did as a therapist,
Yeah.
For all of those years that I was, especially toward like the last 5 years I was a therapist, I was specifically into like sexual violence and trauma and addiction. And I had, in my mind, rented out this metaphorical fucking warehouse. The kind that when you open the door and you click the light on, like it goes on in zones,
Right.
like with like floor to ceiling shelves,
Oof.
and in little boxes on all of those shelves, full to capacity, were the stories of people's monsters, were the stories of people's heartbreaks and devastation. And I think for me, some part of me believed I needed to hold on to that information on the off chance that they needed to come back. That
Oh my gosh. Really?
yeah, I really hurt myself with that
Oh
belief.
my gosh.
But I held on to all of them. And I've learned now that that's not helpful for me. But I'm grateful to have had experience because I can speak to it. I don't think I'm the only therapist who's ever done that.
Of
Um,
course.
and I think that that story needs to be told somewhere. And I'm sure that it will. But yeah, the hum has been a part of my life for a long time. And I'm now learning how to speak about it differently and inviting it differently. And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we have maybe just like 10 minutes left, 10, 12 minutes. How has this experience been for you? Just
No,
chatting.
it's awesome. I'm happy. It's cool to uh like hear someone else's experience of awakening. And I don't feel like I don't normally get to experience that. So I find that to be very interesting and very cool. And I love how similar situations we've had, which is that's just always fun.
Yeah. It makes me believe in magic. So
Yes. Yes, definitely. What about you? Was it like what you had kind of hoped for, or?
more so, if I'm honest. And I'm grateful for you showing up in ways that have me describe it in that way. I think similar to you, describing yourself as like a seeker. I too have been a seeker of knowledge through my whole life, but the last 2 years has really been a journey of going inward before going outward to find answers. Like I go inward and then I allow myself the grace of believing that like if a video comes into my life or a conversation or like a fucking post on Facebook that like has some kind of resonance for me, like that it's for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to pay attention to it. And it is
Yeah.
a gift. And I am being loved through this process of healing. But not for nothing. Like I am being held through this process of healing so that I can give the gift to others. Like that's I have an awareness of that. I don't know what that looks like, but that's where I'm at. And when I consume all this content online, I love the weird shit. I really do. And I've read Convoluted Universe, all 5 books, um, and all the preliminary books that set me up for that experience. Like I've done all that stuff, and I love it. My second QHHT session, I was gifted an opportunity to see myself in an ET life, and the description that I give myself on that recording is that like I was very like all the typical stuff, like the 3 long fingers and toes, like the tall skinny body, like a gray sort of like larger head toward the back. No spoken word voice, but like definitely communication telepathically. Like all those things were unfamiliar to me before. I wasn't
Mm.
really into movies like that. I don't have a frame of reference really, but when it happened or when I was having that experience, I just knew it was true, and it was more curiosity that I was managing than fear and like excitement.
Mm-hmm.
When I watch a lot of content online, I too don't find people talking about the experience of awakening in real terms, like
Right.
that has like um, a texture to it that gives
Mm-hmm.
an opportunity for people to really like connect with it and relate. I get a lot of people sort of on what I imagine to be like a tail end or at least a stable point on their journey where they're talking about it and they're using terms that convey like confidence and competence about these things. And a lot of them offer solutions like here's a list of 3 things to do, and they're all really good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they've all helped me on my journey. Like the people who stand out to me right now in this conversation are like Christina Lopes. I don't know if you know her, like the heart alchemist.
No.
Lee Harris and his channeling.
Oh, he's awesome. Yeah.
disease, like it always hits for me every time. And I look forward to his energy updates because it hits so well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like those people to me and on my journey are the most resonant, along with people that teach me things that I need to know, like Joe Dispenza and Dolores. But there seems to be a gap or like a space for something like our conversation today to exist and to have value to other people on the journey. I know just listening to your story today on that episode of Soul Inspired, like I felt it, and I think that's the purpose of what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And I have experienced your storytelling in a way that I feel it too, and so
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah. I definitely agree with you. I have felt like that for a long time, that there needs to be, people need to be talking about it like as it's happening, because we're not all experts, right? We're not all on the other side of it. And there is a part of us that it's one thing when you listen to, like you said, these people that have been through it, gone through it, now they're, they're building businesses around it. But like, what about those of us that are kind of
Yeah.
still navigating it and like, well, I don't really know what to do, and maybe that works for me sometimes, maybe it doesn't work for me other times, yeah. And it's I'm like, kudos to you for starting that, because I have thought of I had thought of doing it when I was going in the throes of it, and I just couldn't. It was not not something I could navigate.
Nobody needs to see that.
No, 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 no. Yeah. So I think it's awesome to just share. I mean, even if one person, right? Even if one person sees it and gets something out of it,
Yeah,
then it's worth it.
totally. Yeah. Thanks for seeing the vision.
Yeah. Thanks for including me.
Yeah, of course. My intention in writing the email to you that you obviously got because I heard you started recording, um, wasn't necessarily that this be something that we do anything with. This
Sure.
conversation, I wanted to just create a space for us to meet each other and to have this initial experience. I'm grateful now to know that you recorded it. So the potential exists for us to do something with
Yes,
it.
exactly. Exactly. I figured better safe than sorry. Yeah.
So now that we've spent a little bit of time together and we've shared some stories and kind of reflected some things back to each other, is this something that you like? What comes up for you when you think about um, anything that exists beyond this conversation?
Like, in what do you mean? In what way?
Like, would you want to talk again?
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I am oriented to be a collaborator. Like, certainly in this life, I have lived into the experience of being a leader, and I am a leader who also has this capacity for like visioning. That's a safe and like comfortable place for me.
Mm-hmm.
I am fully aware in this moment that that's not the call. The call is like a co-created space with equitable like voice and collaboration with every part of what might ultimately be sort of like linked up with this initial vision.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying that out loud to hold myself accountable and to also invite you to hold me accountable if ever you feel like there's an unequal like sharing space.
Sure.
So that's important to me at this moment in time, applying lessons that I've learned,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and trying on for size this different way of being in the world. So
Mm-hmm.
thanks for letting me do that. And so that's where my heart's at today. I know that, or at least I have reason to believe, because it's been true recently, that after we end this experience, like it will continue on for me in the form of like more ideas like blooming. And I don't know what your process is. I look forward to getting to know it in whatever ways you'll show. But yeah, I'd be interested to know like kind of what happens for you after we talk, and maybe even after reviewing it, if that's something that you choose to do. I would
Sure.
love to do that as well if you'd be willing to share.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I was gonna say I'll send you the link to download. And so what I have learned about myself is that I want to do all of the things wholeheartedly and fully. But I don't always have all the energy for that. So I've learned to just take it as it comes. Like, so do I want to talk to you again? Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, um, can I at this moment, like, can I fully commit to more than that? Not necessarily. Because I haven't, because like I said, I do get very excited about things and I want to do all of the things and be a part of everybody's things. Um, but then I'm like, wait, you actually have to like reel yourself in and don't forget about all the things that you're currently doing, you know?
Yeah, that's really important. And I'm glad that you have your eye on the ball of that in your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's helpful for either of us to lose our eye on the ball in our own lives and to compromise in any way, you know, what we're creating for ourselves.
Yeah.
Like that's also really important to me. I find myself on the point in the journey where I'm still getting started. Like I've done 19 sessions now. I've got a 20th scheduled for Thursday. I'm flying actually to Reno for that session. And
You're flying somewhere for it?
it's a matter
Wow.
of convenience. So our youngest is just a brand new freshman at UNR, at University of Nevada, Reno, and this is family weekend, and so we're going up there for that.
Okay.
But then I had an exchange with a coworker here in town. I'm working part time at a grocery store. I don't have a vehicle. Like I have committed to being back in student mode in my life
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and to humbling myself to this experience that I'm supposed to be having right now and like clearing out all the fucking junk. And so that's what my life looks like right now. And in the exchange that I have with this coworker at Sprouts here in Nevada, she transferred up to Carson City, which is right outside of Reno. And
Oh,
we had
okay.
a conversation about it. And she's like, if ever in town. And so I'm following through on that.
Got it. Oh, that's awesome. Well, and I also want to just kind of, I don't know like who else you know that does QHHT, but if you ever have questions or if you want to talk like talk out a session, I think I've done like 170 or something like that. So I've mentored people like locally. So I mean, I'm here, like I want to help us all be better because I feel like the better we all are, the more people talk about it, the more they get out of it. You know what I mean? Like, and that just kind of like spreads the word about it. So, if you ever have question, like when I email you the link to download the Zoom, like I'll put my phone number in it. Feel free to call me. You know what I mean? Like I'm all for
Thank
helping and, because I remember I remember when I had my 20th session or whatever. It was like, what is happening?
you. I feel like I've been shown grace, or at least the story that I tell myself about 1 through 19 so far is that every one of them has been a unique learning experience. The
For
last one was
sure.
the most challenging in that the client's partner stormed into the session right as I got 11 minutes into the induction after a 6-hour interview and like blew the whole vibe.
Oh,
And so, yeah, I mean, moving through that experience was, it changed me as a practitioner. I know myself more now, how I would, or how I did react emotionally to that experience, and how I
mhm.
was able to try my best to hold space
Oh,
for the client so she could continue, or she could decide whether she wanted to continue. We tried, but it didn't. It didn't. It was exactly what it needed to be. I think
of course, I get it.
there were many questions potentially answered in that experience for the client based on what she shared. But
Hmm.
it was a new experience. And I move ahead into 20 and beyond, having had that experience and having grown from it. But
Yes. There was a point, and I probably I think it was when I was doing my like internship ones that I went to a lady's house and it wasn't even a negative thing, like, but her daughter came to the door, like she had been trying to call her mom. And I was like, I'm never doing it at somebody else's house ever again. Like I have a room here, I'm doing it here, and that's the end of it. Like I'm having control over my environment. You know what I mean? And that's the end of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to respect our time, and I'm super grateful. Thank you, Tara.
Oh, thank you so much. I definitely enjoyed it. And I again, like I'm totally open to having more conversations and recording and seeing what, you know what I mean? Like I'm all for it. I think it's an awesome thing that you're doing. So
I feel comfortable expressing that I am just giving it to the universe, and I feel like it'll happen when it's supposed to happen, and I'll look forward to it.
awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.